So joining us now are Jill, Cory, and Karen McAndless-Davis, the two authors of a book called When Love Hurts. Welcome to What She Said.
Thank you.
Okay, so now there are those who say this book should be on every woman's shelf because it deals with abuse and all the myths surrounding it. And it's very timely because November is Women Abuse Prevention Month, but maybe that should be every month.
Yeah.
So do you think, I mean, I know you would like to see it on every woman's shelf, but why should every woman read it?
Well, statistically, this is going to happen to 1 in 3 Canadian women. And so that's shocking. That's a StatsCan number. So it's going to happen to somebody you know and care about. It might happen to you at some point in your lifetime, but it is going to happen to, you know, a sister or a friend or a mother or a daughter. So being aware of the dynamics of abuse and how it impacts women is really important.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you classify different kinds of abuse, whether it's verbal or physical abuse, in the book?
We do. In fact, one of the reasons that we find this book so helpful for women is that women often don't identify with the stereotypes of abuse, which tends to be kind of around the physical abuse. Whereas what women tell us is they've identified at least 12 kinds of abuse when we work with women. And all of them have long-term impacts. And many of them, women say, are much more harmful and last longer in terms of the effects. So we really encourage women to not rely on that stereotype of the battered woman in order to understand whether she's experiencing abuse.
Well, help us then understand what some of these 12 categories of abuse, verbal, I would guess, would be a place to start.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Verbal, emotional, but some other things that people don't tend to think about, like financial abuse. It's very typical that an abusive man will control the finances in the household or make her account for everything she's spending, or she doesn't have access to money for critical things that are needed. Also social abuse, which is isolating her from family or friends or school or work opportunities, really monopolizing her time, making it very difficult to connect with other people. Also sexual abuse in intimate relationships. So those are some of the ones that people don't necessarily think about, but actually have a huge impact. If a woman is isolated and really has no access to money, even though she might be living in a nice home, she's really quite trapped.
Now, there's a popular opinion that women who live with abuse are helpless, weak, confused. Do you agree with that?
Sometimes the impact of the abuse does make them feel quite confused, but women are it can happen to any woman, and often they're very strong and resilient women for whom it happens, and there just is no stereotype, there's no characteristic, but we certainly find women strong and obviously very brave for what they're going through, very resourceful. They have to sort through and cope with so much more than those of us in safe relationships, so it's quite the contrary to the stereotype.
Well, let's go through some of the myths that you've cited in the book. If a woman is abused as a child, she will think abuse is normal and will be attracted to an abusive man.
That's a myth that we hear a lot, and it's really very frustrating, actually, because the women that come into our support groups, they have all chosen a man who presented himself very well in the beginning. Like, abusive men don't go up to a woman and say, "Hi, I'm abusive. Do you want to date me?" Right? Or, on the first date, they're not like calling her names and throwing her out of the car and leaving her on the sidewalk. He presents himself very well in the beginning, and it's what we call the honeymoon part of the relationship. He seems interested in her, he's attentive, helpful, all of those kinds of things. So that's what women are attracted to. And it can happen to any women. Lots of women who come into our group come from homes, their family of origin is actually what we might describe as kind of above average in terms of healthy and a good home background. So, and just the idea that somehow the woman is choosing the abuse, I think really disconnects the woman from her wisdom, which is actually she chose what appeared to be very good qualities.
Now, you mentioned your group. I just want to stop you there. Tell us a little bit about the group and what you do.
Karen runs more of the groups right now. These days I'm more of the researcher and teacher, so.
Well, we run When Love Hurts groups in various communities, and it's for 10 weeks. It's a safe place for women to come, and they meet other women, and just meeting other women immediately starts to break down the stereotype, because they're sitting across from a woman who's intelligent and bright and resilient and all of those things. And the three things that women most take away from group is, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person this has happened to. I'm not crazy, because abuse is really crazy making, and women often start to think that they're crazy. And it's not my fault, because abusive men always flip everything back onto the woman and blame her. You know, she's pushed his buttons, or, you know,
Provoked in some way.
yeah, and you know, when you hear something often enough, you start to believe it's true. And also there's a lot of societal ideas about women being able to fix relationships.
Well, let's talk about the societal idea that it's easy for a woman to leave an abusive relationship.
Right. Well, it's not easy for a woman to leave any relationship. It's hard to end a relationship. And so it's more profound for women trying to leave an abusive relationship. First of all, she still has many attachments and hope for the relationship. And so we can't just assume because there is abuse that it's all horrible for her and that she can easily leave. But increasingly, our social supports for women are diminishing and disappearing. And so women, for example, no longer have access to legal support, very little legal support in the way of legal aid. Child protection services often put women in a contradiction between making sure she protects the children while the courts tell her that she has to let her children go see her partner. Housing, transition houses and women's shelters are full all the time, and it's a short stay to get everything in place to be able to leave a relationship. So it's very hard for women at the practical level, but also at the emotional level. And I just want to say that the risk for women is greater to be murdered after she leaves than while she's still in. And women know that. They know that he has threatened to kill her, take the children, kill family members, and she's very aware of that in all the decision making that she's doing.
Yeah, well, there's that line in the song, he burst right through the restraining order and put her in intensive care, right? So that does happen. So where do we start to change this perception?
Well, this is a good start. I think, again, when we do women's support groups, women always start by saying, I don't know if I really belong here because I don't think I'm abused. So just helping women understand that there are many forms of abuse, and that what distinguishes abuse from bad behavior is the pattern around it. And Karen talked a little bit about the cycle, and it goes in a cycle. So it's not one bad event. So we kind of carelessly use the word abuse in our society, and for us it means ongoing with a clear intention to maintain the power and control in the relationship. And so I think when women understand that, they see more of what's happening in their relationship and relate to it. So part of it is giving women the knowledge and the opportunity to determine for themselves whether what's happening to them is abuse.
Okay, as experts in your field, I feel I would be remiss not to ask you whether you would consider Donald Trump to be a verbally abusive man.
Well, it's really obvious that he's abusive to many, many people, and if he's behaving that way out in public, what on earth does he do behind closed doors, right? But one little point we would want to make is that most abusive men appear very positively in public. You know, women say, if you met my husband, you would like him. You know, he's a leader in his community, or he's the soccer coach or whatever. So most abusive men, they only show the explosive part of their behavior behind closed doors, and so other people don't see it. And it leaves women really isolated because everybody else thinks he's a great guy.
Well, I think Michelle Obama said the other day that it doesn't only disrespect women, it disrespects all decent men.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and these issues are human issues. They're not women's issues.
So tell everyone where they can get your book, how they can get your book, When Love Hurts.
It's widely available. It's from Penguin Random House. Any bookstore, any online service, you can pick it up. Yeah.
All right, and an excellent read for everyone, I think, not just everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Jill and Karen.
Thank you for having us,
Kate.
This is What She Said on The Jewel. Stay with us. We'll be right back.